The trade deadline coming soon in a lot of fantasy leagues, so the waiver wire might be the only way you can improve your team going forward. Look, there just aren't that many high end options left at this point of the season, so let's try to get ahead of the game and stash some of these players. Let's start in Las Vegas. The Raiders are coming off a bye and also coming off a new offensive coordinator being installed because Luke Getzey is gone. So you got to wonder, are they going to switch things up in any way? If there's one place they're going to start, might as well be in the backfield. Alexander Madison, the veteran, has been the lead back there. Not exactly cutting it, 3.3 yards per carry. Could they go back to Zamir White and give him a shot? Now, I say that, but in the carries that he's gotten this year, Zamir White has been worse at 2.9 yards per carry. Not much of a pass catching back either. So you got to wonder why would they? But look, what do they have to lose at this point besides more games? I honestly feel like they didn't even give White much of a fair shake because Antonio Pierce swore up and down he was going to get a ton of carries, he was going to be the guy, and he really just didn't. It didn't take long before Madison just basically took over. The first game of the season, 13 carries, and then week 2 down to 9 carries. Didn't really get to a high number. Then he got hurt for a couple of weeks, and since then, coming back, he's barely been involved. But he should be healthy fully now. And there's nothing to lose here. Why keep running Madison out there? Let's see what Zamir can do. Look, one thing that's interesting is the last week before the bye, despite not really getting many touches, it was at least a close to even split. Madison got 9 carries and Zamir got 6 carries in their last game. And Zamir did get that touchdown, so maybe goal line opportunities here. Sure, I could just be overly optimistic here, or maybe just holding out hope that Zamir White, who I really thought had a great chance to do something in fantasy this year, finally does something. Look, he may not, but there's just not that much running back value at this point on the waiver wire. Let's see if the Raiders give him a shot, and let's see if it turns into anything. So while the Raiders have been one of the worst offenses in the NFL, I'd have to say the most disappointing from a fantasy standpoint, especially, has been the Dolphins. I mean, what happened to that exciting Mike McDaniel offense from 2023? Everybody's back and healthy, supposedly, but what gives? But look, for Tyreek Hill and his part, you got to wonder if it's that wrist, which you wouldn't think would hamper his ability to get open and get touchdowns. If he can catch, he can catch, but whatever. Now there's some concern he could have surgery. And although they're hinting that it could be after the season, you never know. If he lands in it wrong, something pops up, or the Dolphins just lose and decide, hey, why wait? Maybe we don't see Tyreek Hill anymore. I say that to draw your attention to Malik Washington. So Malik Washington actually scored a touchdown on Monday night against the Rams. And sure, it was just a rushing touchdown on an end around, and he only had one catch besides that. But hey, he was actually on the field, which he wasn't for the first part of the season. I'd like to say this is still an offense that can manufacture these big dynamic plays for players like Malik Washington. Got great speed, got a 96 percentile burst score for those of you who like to follow those kind of combine stats. This is a guy who was really an alpha in college, 1,400 yards. I mean, he was a target hog despite not being a very big receiver. He can catch the ball, he can make plays, turn and go. He should be able to do that in this Dolphins offense if given a chance. And he probably won't get too many chances, but honestly, they need something here. I don't know if they'll get him more involved, but also kind of hedging my bet against something the worst possibly happening to Tyreek Hill. And at this point of the season, you should definitely be hedging your bet if you got a bell cow running back like Josh Jacobs. Looking for those handcuff running backs, well, it's been Emmanuel Wilson, but we finally saw Marshawn Lloyd back on the practice field for the first time since week 2. He's been on IR with a hamstring issue. It's been lingering. He was having trouble in the preseason as well. So we just haven't seen much of Lloyd in a Packers uniform. We might actually see it soon. Don't think he's going to play real soon, but a couple of weeks from now, we might see him all of a sudden as the RB2 in Green Bay. And I would love to see that because Lloyd was one of my favorite running back prospects in this entire class. I mean, I feel like this is a perfect fit for him potentially. Jacobs has been great. Jacobs is definitely the workhorse, so it's not like he's going to steal touches from him or anything. But again, you always want that high-end handcuff to your stud running back. This is why guys like Braylon Allen, Ray Davis are starting to get stashed in these leagues. And maybe it won't be long before Lloyd joins them. I got another rookie running back that might interest you if you can afford the bench space. But first, I also need to remind you that if you haven't tried Underdog, this is a great time to do it. And if you sign up this week on Underdog for the very first time, you get this free pick ahead of week 11. Aaron Rodgers going higher than point 0.5 total yards. That's right, he gets a yard, you win the pick. Just make sure you use code NGAME when you check out for the first time because you get the free pick and you also get up to $1,000 worth of bonus cash on your first deposit. Now, if you've had Saquon Barkley all year, you're probably not worried at all about your RB1 spot. And let's just hope and assume that nothing will happen to Saquon, but you never know. If it does, who is the guy? You probably think Kenneth Gainwell, but maybe it's Will Shipley, the rookie out of UT. Now, let's be real here. It's not going to be one or the other. It's probably going to be both. Maybe they bring somebody else in, but I wouldn't be shocked if most of the carries and even the early down work go to a guy like Shipley. Not because he's a bigger back or anything like that, but he's the more dynamic playmaker. I feel Gainwell is there for pass protection, receiver out of the backfield. Yeah, maybe near the goal line, at least he can do his thing. But Will Shipley has started to come on a little bit lately. Last week, 9 carries, his career high for 34 yards. Of course, this was because it was a complete blowout over the Cowboys, and that's why he got in some carries in the first place. But worth noting that he got more carries than Gainwell in that game. I'm not telling you to make him a priority pickup or anything, or like if you have Barkley, you have to have Shipley. But come on, the upside in this offense, if something were to happen to Saquon, the Eagles right now have the most rush attempts in the NFL, the most run heavy team. I understand that's because they have Saquon Barkley and they have a quarterback who runs a lot, especially near the goal line. But it's not like if Barkley goes down, all of a sudden they're just going to change their identity and say, all right, well, scrap the running game. Let's just pass. So there's definitely opportunity here for a guy like Shipley. All right, here's a fun one. How about a veteran? They can't all be rookies that we talk about. You remember Adam Thielen? You remember that 1,000-yard season a year ago, even with Bryce Young? Yeah, we haven't seen it because Adam Thielen's been sidelined since week 3 on a touchdown grab, no less. Well, then he went down and grabbed the hamstring, and it has limited him for a while, but it sounds like he is coming back, might even play next week for the Panthers are on bye in week 11. So why shouldn't Thielen just step in and immediately resume his role as the top target in this offense? Because Deontay Johnson is gone. Right now, the competition for targets is rookie Xavier Legette, rookie Jalen Coker, and then the tight end, rookie Jatavian Sanders. Look, those guys have shown out a little bit here and there, but can we think that Bryce Young, when he steps back there to pass the ball, you don't think he's going to look first to his safety blanket, Adam Thielen? So while Thielen's breakout season came several years ago in Minnesota, he hasn't done anything much this year for fantasy. You're looking for some help, maybe consider a veteran. You know what? Let's actually go back to the Raiders. I get it. There's probably not a lot of you needing a quarterback that you think you can find on the waiver wire. Let's look deep. Let's talk Superflex 2QB, Dynasty Leagues, and let's talk hypotheticals. Gardner Minshew was named the starter for Week 11, but not before they considered moving to Desmond Ridder. Gardner Minshew might actually be on his last legs, not just this season for the Raiders, but just as a starting quarterback, period. Things go south for the Raiders this weekend. Maybe they just ride with Ridder the rest of the way. As disappointing as Ridder's tenure in Atlanta was, he looked pretty good this preseason. And in mop-up duty just a couple weeks ago, 74 yards and a touchdown. I know it feels like we're gasping at straws here, but again, I'm talking about those of you who need a quarterback looking for something. Hey, Desmond Ridder can run. He does have some upside. Who knows? Maybe they just let him loose in this offense, and at the very least, he can't be worse than Gardner Minshew. Now, I'll tell you what, here's the main thing that interests me even remotely in this Raiders offense, and especially if it happens to be a guy like Ridder. Look at not the next 2 weeks, because these are horrible matchups, and you want to avoid both Ridder, Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, whoever it is. But look at the last 4 weeks, which is the fantasy playoffs for most of you. The schedule is the Tampa Bay Bucks, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the New Orleans Saints, and the revenge game, the Atlanta Falcons. Sure, it sounds like a stretch, but honestly ask yourself, at this point, would you really feel better starting Daniel Jones than Desmond Ridder? Those are some players I'm going to look at to stash this week if I can afford to. If you want to know who to start in your lineups to win in Week 11, well, we got you covered as always. Check out this week's playlist.